Hello everyone, this is Elias Martin of Collecting Japanese Prints. Welcome to Woodblock Wednesday, where on Wednesdays we get together and discuss Japanese woodblock prints, paintings, history, and culture. Today's Woodblock Wednesday is actually not happening on Wednesday. It actually is in fact on Thursday. So for those of you who are joining me live on Facebook, welcome. It is not Wednesday. I don't want to scare all of you. I'm actually traveling, and I thought I would do a sort of a guest spot appearance at a collector's home and show one interesting group of prints and paintings that belong to a friend and a client of mine. I'm out on the East Coast to attend, or I actually already attended the Asia Society's opening of Meiji Modern. That's an exhibition featuring an amazing array of Meiji period artwork and artifacts. I highly recommend the exhibition if you're in New York. It is also traveling to Chicago and Houston. So if you happen to be in any of those cities, I'm encouraging you to go check out the exhibition. I've actually personally loaned one work from my own collection. It's a painting by Onchi, self-portrait double-sided painting. But there's a wonderful group of other things there. But of course, you should go see my painting along with the others. But today's talk, I'm actually in the home of Daryl C. Carl. He's one of the most prominent collectors of 20th century prints and paintings. And I can go on and on about his collection. You could kind of see behind me some of the scrolls that are in this one room, but his entire home is dedicated to Japanese art. I would love to give you a tour of the entire house, but we don't have time. But Daryl was kind enough to let me speak about a group of woodblock prints, an original painting, and a key block for a wonderful design by Shiro Kasamatsu. So without further ado, let's go to the table and see what I have. So I'm going to pan out as I normally do. I have like this folding table for our conversation today, and what I put out. This is the finished print, and let me talk about, actually that's not true, this is the finished print, and let me talk to you about the design. The artist's name is Shiro Kasamatsu, so most of you are familiar with Shiro's work. He's a Shin Hanga artist who worked with the publisher Watanabe, but he also went on to produce some self-published designs as well. But in this case, we're discussing this really famous work. The print is called The Ginza on a Spring Night. It was produced in 1934. And this is a design, again, done by Watanabe. And what we could easily see the Watanabe seal in the margin there. And this is a design that shows night revelers walking around in the Ginza area of Japan. I have spoken about this area before in other woodblock prints. It's a very popular area of Tokyo. There's a lot of shopping. The lights are fantastic. They're even brighter than Times Square. So if you've ever been to Tokyo, you know the Ginza. And if you've not been to Tokyo, the Ginza is definitely a destination that should be on your list. Now, this is a very famous work. It's a design that you normally see in most references on Shin Hanga, and this is one of the artist's most desirable designs. And this is the finished print that we've all seen. But what's interesting is today I also have a very early trial impression of the print, but we will. And then, of course, a trial key block printing. But we're going to start with the actual watercolor. It is a fantastic opportunity to show you something that's obviously unique and original. This was hand done by the artist himself, by Shiro. And because it's the original painting, and all Shin Hanga follows sort of the same paradigm of Edo period prints, where the artist was hired by the publisher to produce the design. And the design really was a watercolor. And this is what we have here, a finished watercolor executed pretty faithfully to what the original print would look like, but with some changes. And so Shiro, captures a wonderful night where there's these strollers that are walking up and down on a street in the Ginza area of Japan. The lights are all on, and you could see that it's crowded. The nightlife in this area is quite active. And we have here a little stall, and we have the light coming through with a figure, with a hat. Everyone is dressed so fashionably well for the period. This is, of course, done, in it's basically 1934. So in the early 30s. And so you have people in modern dress along with kimonos. I'm going to zoom in so you could see all of these very fashionable people walking around in this beautiful area. But what I want to talk about, beyond the fact that this is the original watercolor, there's pencil there still that helped the artist decide where things would go. What's interesting are the changes. So I'm going to grab the finished print and bring it over. And I want to show you, what do we have here? This is, of course, the finished print. And when we compare it to the original watercolor, you see this figure, the silhouette of the shadow of the figure inside, and we don't see that in the finished print. And the finished print, the curtain is much more prominent in that stall. And so, it's fascinating. As a collector, we see that the artist created this design and then handed it over to Watanabe, the publisher. And Watanabe, had some things to say about certain aspects. We see changes in Hasui prints in these watercolors as well. I've seen a fair amount in my day. I've sold quite a few as well. And in this case, it's the same deal. You see the original watercolor has the silhouette of this figure. Here, we see the figure. The figure is not gone, but it's been translated into a different way. You see the figure's feet and the bottom portion of their kimono. And of course, this is a kimono. But here, the figure looks, to my eye, dressed more Western. So they may not be in a kimono. And of course, the light here is much more prominently executed. The curtain's more sheer, where we could see through and see the silhouette. Where here, the material, the cloth, is much thicker. And the kanji of the stall is much more prominent. But the other aspects of it is the people in the background are really actually faithfully reproduced onto the woodblock print. And there's some changes. So for example, this is the finished print. You don't see this area of lighting to be all that prominent. It's basically, this is like a window with a display with some lighting. Here in the original, this is so much more strongly done. And here there's a sign that's been executed. You could kind of make out characters, but it's also stylized. Here, that sign has been reduced to something that's much more simplified. And that makes sense. In a woodblock print, you do want to simplify some things. And then the top here, you still see that lighting effect. Here, that's there. You have the decoration here of the blossoms over the lantern here that's lit, the street light. And here they're a little bit more subdued. They're not as bright. And here the willow, you don't really see the green that is on the original. Now this is a finished print, but I also happen to have the trial. And in the trial, you'll notice that the pink that's in this window in the original painting, which is missing the brightness of that pink, it's missing in this impression, is there. And this is a trial. You will note that there is no seal by the publisher. And this came along with this set. It's been a set. It's been married since it was created. And so this is an original trial printing by the printer to give to the publisher. And I prefer this trial because there's a stronger coloration in the lighting, generally speaking. You could see the blooms here in the decoration. They're a little bit more prominent than they are here. They kind of blend in with the gray of the background of the buildings. And you'll note that this gray and this gray is about the same. Whereas in the trial printing, this gray is a different color grade. This is more blue. It's a little bit more purple. And of course, in the original, you'll see it's very different. It's kind of a bluish, darker blue that sort of marries with the night air. The night sky. You see that more. And here, it's a brown color. Where here, you don't. It's simplified, but this is all one color. This is at least a different color, so a different color block. So what we see here is the publisher is making decisions how to make the print that makes it a little bit more commercially viable for him. There's more work involved in printing this print because the blue here is one additional color block, and then this blue with the purple is another block. Where here, these two buildings pretty much share the same colors. This might have a slight additional block that makes it slightly different, but generally speaking, it's the same sort of color. And the background is much more simple because it's just generally speaking one color block. Here we have one color in the area, but there's much more bokashi. It adds a much more atmospheric quality in this trial printing. And here it's a little less atmospheric. And of course, in the original, we have lights here that are much more prominent. And then you can kind of see the street moving up. You lose that in the finished print. You kind of have that a little bit in the background. The silhouettes of the shadows are more prominent in the trial printing. And here they blend into the background a bit more. So, I just wanted to highlight the process that, woodblock prints in the production, what they undergo. You, again, have the original watercolor drawing. And one work that I didn't really speak about is this is the keyblock. And this was used to produce the subsequent blocks of color created for the print. So basically, the keyblock was produced, and then you glued this keyblock onto a block that you use to create one of the particular color blocks so that the registration lines up perfectly. And so these were destroyed in the process of making the subsequent color blocks. So, I just thought I would point that out, that this survives, and it's quite rare to have as an artifact in the process of making these prints. And so I think, the publisher was really cognizant in the fact that he was going to keep the original watercolor and add this key block, and then keep the printing, the trial print, and of course here's the finished print. So this is a really wonderful opportunity to see the woodblock print making process at work. And of course, to see an original of a subject that is really popular. Everyone loves Ginza designs and woodblock prints and paintings. And this subject has a lot of overlap in terms of different interests. Some collectors love city scenes. Some collectors love work that shows Japan's modernity and how they dress, and of course architecture. And so this design showcases all of those things. I'm going to zoom in. You could see the details of this one last time, and then I'll move on to each work. I just think it's so neat. I can look at this watercolor for hours, and just because I'm so familiar with the finished print, there's all those elements that stick out that are not on the finished print that are so different. And I mean, as collectors and as a dealer, I see this design, it comes up for sale pretty regularly, but to see the original watercolor, that's quite a treat. So here, of course, is the key block. Here's the trial. And again, even just a comparison between these two, that is a wonderful sort of opportunity to see a really early trial. You rarely see something like this. And there are variations of the printing of this design, clearly. They're woodblock prints. One print isn't necessarily exactly like the next. But here, there's a lot of embellishments here that are present that you don't see on the finished print, because clearly the publisher wanted to see what the printer can do and then make decisions that were economical decisions that help the publisher create a nice print, but then also make it economically viable for the print to be a success for him. And so there's a lot more work done in this print than in the final version. And of course, it's darker. The print is more dramatic, a little bit more moody, and this lacks that, but it's still very charming. It's a wonderful design. So I'm just going to zoom in so you could see the detail of the printing. And of course, the finished print. We have the Watanabe seal that indicates this is a commercially produced work, the one that you would have bought. So I'm going to step back. I could see all four laid out. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining me on today's special Woodblock Wednesday. Not actually held on a Wednesday, but for those of you watching this video at a much later date, you probably won't know it wasn't filmed on Wednesday anyway. But I want to welcome all of you on YouTube who follow me. I want to invite all of you to subscribe to the channel, to join my mailing list. My website is collectingjapaneseprints.com, where I offer an array of woodblock prints and paintings, as well as a bookstore with a wonderful, rare, out of print books. And just generally speaking, I have also a lot of educational content. Also, my Woodblock Wednesday videos are all archived and accessible via YouTube, but the links are on my website, so you could easily find the pieces there, or the videos there. And of course, I'm always interested in buying woodblock prints and paintings. If the day comes that you should decide to sell your collection or your treasures, look me up, shoot me an email if you're interested in doing so. But I want to thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing all of you next week. And before I go, I want to thank Daryl again for allowing me to use just a fragment of his collection. He has a wonderful collection of prints and paintings, and this is just a sample of what he focuses on. So I want to thank Daryl again for allowing me to film in his home and to use this wonderful collection of Shiro prints and paintings. So thank you, Daryl, and I thank all of you for joining me. I will see you next week. Until then, bye-bye.